My name is Catherine Chia, and I'm also a student at the University of Washington's Engage program. So I study how the flu virus changes over time, and if that's a topic that's interesting to you, I'm actually going to be giving one of these talks next Monday. So before we get to our final talk of the evening, I just want to mention that one of the best ways to keep up with Town Hall's program is to become a member. So membership offers downfront seating, discounts on book and ticket purchases, and a mailed copy of the Town Hall's monthly calendar. And it provides a lot of the support that's really essential to bringing you more than 400 events annually at affordable ticket prices. So that's something to consider. And now for our final speaker today. Jonika Hash is a registered nurse and PhD student in the Department of Family and Child Nursing at the University of Washington. So she's really passionate about thinking about what babies and toddlers think, feel, and experience inside. And so today she's going to be telling us about some of her work with babies and toddlers in Families with a Child Protective Services report. And she'll also talk about whether sleep is important for understanding this very question of how babies and toddlers show what they're thinking, feeling, and experiencing inside. So please give a warm welcome to Jonika.
Thank you, Catherine, for that introduction. And thank you, everyone, for being here. I'm really excited to be here tonight and have the opportunity to share a bit with you about what I've learned as a graduate student about sleep and social emotional development in babies and toddlers, and to share a bit about the work that I've done in babies and toddlers with the maltreatment report. So that's where we're going with this talk. We'll talk about sleep, move into social emotional development. We'll unpack that, take a look at what that looks like, and then move into the work that I've had the opportunity to do. To start us off, I'd like for all of us to think about a time recently when we got a really awful night's sleep. How did you feel the next day? Try to think about some of the social interactions you had and how those went for you. How you treated your spouse, partner, coworkers, your kids, your dog. Try to think also about the emotions and feelings that you experienced as you went about your day, as you got into work and saw your long list of emails, or as you were trying to rush out the door with all your kids fed and off to school. Imagine a baby or toddler who has gotten a really awful night's sleep. Imagine how they might interact in social interactions, or how they might feel or think when they're tired. And what if it wasn't just one night of awful night's sleep? What if it was a sleep problem? Something that was happening consistently enough that parent was worried about it. Something like nighttime awakenings that are happening a lot or that are lasting for a really long time in the middle of the night. Something where parent has to come up and get up and rock, feed, or hold baby to go back to sleep. This is one of the most common sleep problems we see in babies. In newborns, it's perfectly normal to wake up at night and feed. Newborns aren't capable of going the whole night without feeding. But in a healthy baby, after about 6 months, they are capable of doing that. The trouble is, sometimes babies start to associate falling asleep with being rocked, held, or fed. So when they wake up at night and they look around and they don't have those things, they cry and fuss and let parent know, hey, I'm awake and I need you to help me go back to sleep. And this can be disruptive for baby sleep and stressful for parents who are getting up multiple times at night to help baby go back to sleep. Another common problem we see, which happens as we enter the toddlerhood years, is bedtime resistance. This looks like, can I have another glass of water, or one more bedtime story, please? Stalling behaviors that let you know that baby's really not excited about going to bed. Or maybe you tell toddler it's time to get your PJs on and get ready for bed, and they fight and say, no, I'm not ready to go to bed. I have some friends whose toddler, his stalling behavior was asking for a glass of milk every night before he went to bed. And what his parents ended up doing was they told him, you know, you've already brushed your teeth and the milk has sugar bugs in it, and he really didn't like the sugar bugs, so that solved that problem for him. But for persisting bedtime resistance, this can push back bedtime. It can get baby really worked up when they should be calming down, go to sleep, and start to impinge on a full night's rest. And so if you think back to all of the things that you had to do the next day, the work, the meetings, the interacting with people, taking care of kids, babies also have things to do. And one of their big things to do is to grow bigger, stronger, taller, to make new connections in their brain, to cut away old ones they don't need anymore, and to develop socially and emotionally. And that's what we're talking about today, social emotional development. And by that I mean babies' growing experience of the emotions that they have on the inside, how they feel about themselves and others on the inside, and how they show their emotions and their feelings about themselves and others on the outside. In other words, social emotional development is about how babies feel on the inside and how they show that on the outside. If you've ever had a crush on somebody or have known someone who have a crush on somebody, then you already have a good idea of what this looks like. You can look at two people on a date and you can tell when they're really into each other. They're facing each other, they're making eye contact, they're leaning forward like they're really interested in what the other person has to say. They're smiling, they're laughing. You can just tell when they're really into each other. When I first met my husband, my now husband, that's us up there, we were undergraduates in college. And we used to go to one of the cafes on campus and each buy ourselves a bottle of Martinelli's sparkling cider. And we'd go and we'd sit and, oops, sorry guys. We'd go and we'd sit and I'd be so nervous that I would start peeling the label off the bottle because I didn't know where else to channel all of my nervous energy. And the label never comes off in one piece, so I'd have all of these pieces on the table by the end of the night. I was showing on the outside all of the nervousness that I felt on the inside. Babies do the same thing. They show us on the outside how they're feeling on the inside. If you were the parent or caregiver holding this little guy, for example, you would see that lifted head and those bright eyes and maybe think to yourself, he's interested in me. He wants to play. This is baby's way of saying, oh, hey, I'd really like to do something fun together. Can we do that? Will you engage with me? Will you interact with me? And so then you pick up on this and you probably respond. Maybe you lean in and you nuzzle your nose with his nose and you pull back and you see this. This is baby saying, wow, this is fun. I'm really enjoying this. Will you enjoy this with me? And so then you pick up on that and then you lean in again, you nuzzle your nose with his nose and then you pull back and you see this. Again, will you enjoy this with me? Will you enjoy me? And so then maybe you lean in one last time. Maybe you exaggerate it this time. And then you pull back and he's really having fun. This is baby's social emotional development unfolding in the context of the relationship he has with his caregiver. He's learning what it feels like to be happy and to show that he's happy. He's learning that he's loved and delighted in. And he's learning that others respond to his joy with showings of their own joy. Social emotional development also shows up when they make friends. Maybe you know a toddler who has a favorite neighbor friend or a favorite preschool friend that they're just excited to see every day. They're curious. They feel like they can go out and explore the world, discover new things. They're kind to others. They pet animals nicely. They kiss little brother's owie when he gets hurt to help him feel better. They show that they understand how others are feeling. They get really excited at a job well done. Oh, this is the baby when they learn to do something new, like maybe match shapes in a toy. They look at you and they clap and they say yay and they do a little happy dance. They're excited about a job well done. Social emotional development also shows up in what parents and caregivers often call more challenging behaviors. Behaviors like you're in the grocery store in the candy aisle and baby wants candy and mama said no and now they're kicking and screaming and fighting. Or you're in the playground and you see your toddler push another child off the slide and you ask them please not to push other children, and then you go see them do it again. This is also the child that's very active. They have a lot of energy and they're running around and you feel like you can't take your eyes off of them because they're always getting hurt. Or they're impulsive, they just do things without thinking about it. These kinds of behaviors, the aggression, defiance, hyperactivity, and impulsivity, these are a cluster of behaviors that have a name, and they are called externalizing behaviors. There's also another cluster of behaviors called internalizing behaviors. This is when baby just doesn't look as happy as you think he should. They're not smiling or laughing as much as your friend's baby, or they're anxious. Kids sometimes show anxiety in things like being really worried about getting their hands dirty or getting tummy aches. They can carry stress in their tummy. Maybe if you put the family dog down and now your toddler is suddenly having these tummy aches that don't really have any other explanation, maybe because they're carrying all that anxiety in their tummy. Or they're very, very shy in new places, with new people. They take a really long time to warm up to things. And so if we think back to the baby we were interacting with earlier, and just as his smiling, his giggling, and his laughing told us something about how he was feeling inside, externalizing and internalizing behaviors also tell us a little something about what baby's feeling inside. It's baby saying, I'm angry, or I'm worried, or I'm sad. And these are really big feelings. I'm still trying to understand these feelings. I'm still trying to make sense of them. I'm still trying to get to know them. And all babies feel these feelings. And sometimes all babies will disobey or be a little shy. It's just that we start to get concerned when we see these behaviors happening a lot. For the sleepy child can struggle more with these behaviors because they're just not in the best frame of mind for making sense of all of these really big emotions that they're still trying to learn about. Which brings us to the work that I've had the opportunity to do with families with a Child Protective Services maltreatment report. Maltreatment is a really stressful experience. It includes abuse and neglect, and that stress can really stir up more of these, the stress can be harmful for a child's social emotional development, and that can show up in more of the externalizing and internalizing behaviors. So we wanted to know how, so we wanted to know whether sleep problems were contributing to this, if sleep problems were maybe making it harder for babies to make sense of all of these feelings that they're experiencing inside. So we recruited parents with babies and toddlers between the ages of 10 and 24 months. We recruited a lot of them, 123 of them, out of 5 different Child Protective Services offices. And we asked parents to tell us about their child's sleep problems. We asked them, do you think your child has a sleep problem? And they told us, no, I don't think my child has a sleep problem, or yes, a little, or yes, a really big sleep problem. 3 months later, we asked parents, we gave them a questionnaire that asked them about their child's behaviors. And that gave us a sense of the frequency with which the child was showing the externalizing and internalizing behaviors. And what we found was that sleep problems were related to social emotional functioning, but only for internalizing behaviors. Compared to babies who didn't have a sleep problem, babies who had a sleep problem were more likely to show more internalizing behaviors 3 months later. In other words, having a sleep problem was related to more shows of depression, withdrawal, worry, anxiety, and feeling very, very shy. We're not really sure why we didn't see any relation with the externalizing behaviors. In studies about kids who have not experienced maltreatment, there is a link between sleep and externalizing behaviors. So we're not sure why we didn't see that here. Maybe it's the way we measured sleep. Maybe just asking parents whether or not they think their child has a sleep problem just didn't really capture the aspect of sleep that relates to behavior. So moving forward, we can do more studies that look at other angles of sleep to help us get a better picture of what's going on. We can ask about what's the quality of the child's sleep like? How regular is it from night to night, week to week? Exactly how many awakenings is the child getting? And then we can move into what can we do to help? Treatment approaches. If we treated sleep, would that then improve social emotional functioning? Okay. I think we're coming to a close now, but before we end, I wanted to share one last thing that I've learned with you as a grad student at the University of Washington, and that is the power of empathy. When babies and toddlers are showing externalizing and internalizing behaviors, we can think of this as an opportunity to wonder about what's going on inside for the child. We can try to step inside the child's shoes and wonder what it's like to have all of these really big feelings that they're still trying to make sense of and understand. We can do the same for families. We can wonder what it's like, what mom's experience of her baby's fighting and kicking and screaming is like, or what it's like to feel really tired because your baby's just waking up so many times at night. So whether you are a grandparent, a parent, a teacher, or a professional who works with babies and toddlers and child welfare, the next time you have the opportunity to interact with a baby, take a minute and wonder about what might be going on inside for them. I would like to thank the science that has shaped my thinking on sleep and social emotional development, as well as the University of Washington School of Nursing for also shaping my thinking, the Engage program for this opportunity to speak, and the Town Hall for the venue. I'd like to thank Pixabay for most of the pictures, most of the wonderful pictures, and my friends at Venture Arts for providing feedback on my presentation, my fantastic research team and doctoral committee, the Magnuson Scholar for making my Engage program experience possible, and for the study funding. I'll take questions now.
I'm curious about the criteria with which you selected sort of the families that you would study.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the CPS reports. Did you base your selection on the contents of those reports at all, or was it just the existence of that report?
The existence of it, yeah, just the existence of the report. And that it was an open investigation of maltreatment. Yeah, good question. Other questions? Okay.
I was wondering if you were to repeat your study, how you might change the way that you evaluated sleep, since you think that might be something that affected the outcome of your study.
Yeah, thank you. That's a really great question. I would measure sleep. Well, that's a great question because sleep was kind of an afterthought in this study. So we gave parents a questionnaire. If I could do this prospectively, I would do the questionnaire, but I would also attach, it's a wristwatch looking device, it's called actigraphy, and it measures movement. And we can infer from the movement whether someone's awake or they're asleep. In babies and toddlers, we put this on the ankle, and they wear it for 24 hours, 7 days a week, and you can really get a nice look at their sleep patterns over the course of a whole week. And that would be how I would prefer to measure it.
I'm curious whether you think that if you were able to follow these children sort of like several years down the road into like kindergarten or preschool or something like that, what kinds of effects you think you might be seeing there?
Oh, that's great. A good question. In terms of sleep, you mean? What effects do you think we might see? Well, there's I like how Jody Mendel, she's a famous sleep doctor and researcher. Judy Owens. And I like how she says this is sleep kind of permeates everything. So I think we would expect to see sleep problems affect or permeate school performance, continued with their social emotional functioning. Growth hormone is secreted during sleep. So if they're not getting enough what we call deep sleep, we might see changes in growth. It affects metabolism and the way we process our food. It's related to obesity. I think it would depend, I think, on several factors, but I think you could see it possibly permeate almost any aspect of human life. All right. If there's no more questions, I think that's it. Thank you.